Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen and esteemed guests, first of all, I want to give a big thank you to the World First for hosting and for the invitation for me to speak at this wonderful event today. I'm personally very happy to be here and representing Wayfair. And for those of you who are probably not familiar with Wayfair, we are the biggest online marketplaces in US, in North America actually, and Europe for home categories of home goods, meaning furnitures, home decors, and home appliances. And maybe if I can get a show of hand for how many people here actually are selling in these categories or interested in selling in this category. If you can please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. So I'm actually very excited to be here today, and for a couple of reasons, and many of them are actually building on what our previous guests have touched on before. First of all, I think there's a tremendous opportunity currently in North America and Europe in the home goods market, as many of you probably know. It's roughly about 800 billion in size, and we're expecting that to grow to around 1 trillion in 2030. And as you know, Vietnam actually is the biggest exporter of home-related products, of furnitures, to the United States. And I think overtook China last year to become the _1 exporter. And there's a very mature and increasingly complex supply chain in Vietnam. I actually was in Ho Chi Minh City and Bien Duong a couple of weeks ago, and I visited several factories and many of the service providers over there. And I'm very encouraged to see that it's a vibrant scene, and then there's a lot of suppliers currently in the market in Vietnam who are very experienced and who has a lot of expertise in these areas in terms of home goods and manufacturing. And I think those are very good fit for our platform. And the second reason that I'm very excited today is that I think in Vietnam, traditionally, we are a kind of B2B oriented environment. And I've met a lot of suppliers who are currently doing OEM, for example, for a lot of the North American or European retailers in furniture. And I think that this is starting to change over the past several years. The pandemic definitely helps. But at the same time, I think I'm seeing a growing community of service providers, such as World First, such as a lot of the logistic partners that we have here today, as well as the e-commerce service providers who are providing the valuable support for a lot of the companies, business SMEs, for example, that are starting to realize the opportunity in the online marketplace and are starting to tap into that opportunity cross-borderly. And I think it's accelerating today, like I think Mr. Zhang mentioned and several other guests mentioned. I think the overall, in terms of growth stage in Vietnam, in terms of e-commerce here, is probably a few years behind China. But I think the speed of growth and the acceleration that we're witnessing here is tremendous. And I think it's definitely going to take a lot fewer years for our Vietnamese partners to catch up compared to the kind of the development that went through in China. So for both of these reasons, I think this is the perfect time for me here today and for me to be sharing the opportunity on Wayfair with all of you. So without further ado, I'm going to take you through two parts today. The first part, I will quickly go over Wayfair as a platform, give you a bit of an introduction and explain what we are, who we are, what we do, and what we sell. And for the second part, I'm also going to go over specifically the opportunities that we see for you and the way that we are expecting or we're looking forward to be collaborating with you all. So starting with the introduction part. We as a company were founded in 2002. So initially, it's just a collection of websites selling furniture in the US. But over the past 20 years, we've quickly grew and become the #1 marketplace vertically for home goods. And in 2014, as you can see, we've went for our initial public offering in the US. And with the added support from the capital market, we aggressively invested in three things. One is we build up a network of suppliers originally in the US with all the top furniture retailers, distributors, making sure that we have unparalleled selection that we can offer to our customer within the home goods space. And the second thing that we do is heavily invested into building up a customer experience, a great shopping experience, a site that's dedicated to a lot of the home goods product, especially bulky furniture products. And we also invested into a lot of the marketing activities to make sure that we become a household brand in the US. So today, I think our brand awareness in the United States is roughly about 85%, meaning that if you ask 100 people in the US, 85 of them will recognize the brand, and they probably used it before. And then the third thing that we did is also very closely linked to the second point that I mentioned, is basically building up that end-to-end customer experience for large, bulky items. And we created something called CastleGate, which is a custom delivery, warehousing and delivery network to kind of cater to the large, bulky items such as mattress, such as like sofa, outdoor furniture, things like that, right? So making sure that these bulky items will get the best kind of delivery experience, and we can ship them to our customer within 6 to 7 days for a large item, and probably 2 to 3 days for small items. And with all of these investments, we were able to very quickly grow. And I think we reached about 12 billion of revenue in 2022. And for all the kind of skeptics in the world who are kind of questioning whether or not large items are able to, or such as furniture, will kind of gain traction or gain momentum in online shopping, we've kind of proven to the world that this is doable. We've done it. We've succeeded. And this is a direction that we'll continue to invest in and differentiate ourselves going forward. So, and then here you can see a couple of figures about the platform, just to give you an idea of how big we are and our presence in the North America and Europe. So we currently have about 22 million of active customers, very loyal ones as well. And we have about 20,000 suppliers globally that are working with us. And we have, we're based in Boston in US, but we also have our Asia headquarters in Shanghai. And we're very looking forward to kind of expanding our presence in Asia, starting with Vietnam, in the sense that we do recognize a large kind of and vibrant supplier or seller community here who are offering products that we think is going to be a great fit for us. And the reason that we are able to achieve what we have today, I think the main reason for that is that we've really cracked the code for offering a great customer experience or kind of addressing the pain points, customer pain points on shopping furniture or home goods online. So specifically, I think to give an example or give an analogy, it's actually not that different, right? If you think about it, if you shop for a piece of clothing online versus shopping for a piece of, let's say, accent furniture online, it's actually not that different. First of all, I mean, both of them are kind of a visual shopping experience, right? So if you shop for a piece of clothes, you go online, you browse for the clothing, and then you pick the one that looks good to you, and then you kind of compare different options, and then you look at the price points and description, etc. Right? So it's kind of a visual kind of shopping experience. And for furniture, it's kind of the similar situation. It's a lot of them is unbranded. There is not really a brand recognition for that. So a lot of the times, customers go on our website, they browse through what we have, and they pick out the ones that really touch them, and then we offer them a seamless experience to also kind of compare similar products, and then to make the final decision on which one they want to get, right? So it's a browsing experience, and so it's the same for the customer, but it's more difficult to do for furniture. So we invested heavily into the technology to build up that site, that platform, to make sure that the shopping experience online is tailor-made for furniture or home goods. That's number one. And number two, when you buy a piece of clothes, obviously you're expecting many times, right? So it's a leap of faith. You're placing your trust in the platform that it's a well-known platform that is going to give you good customer service. It's going to make sure that you're getting good quality products from the platform. And it's the same situation for furniture. So what we did over the past 20 years, is that we really built up that brand recognition, making sure that customers in the US, in Europe, they know about Wayfair, they trust Wayfair, they know that Wayfair is the place to go if you want to shop for furniture online. And then in that case, right, so if you see something that you like on Wayfair, it's more likely for them to actually convert and place the order. So this type of trust building takes a long time, and it's not something that you do overnight. And this is something that we really heavily invested in over the past couple of years, and it's really a kind of a differentiator for Wayfair versus some of the other platforms that we see. And the third thing that you look for, obviously, is a stress-free shopping experience, right? You want to make sure that if you buy a piece of clothes and you don't like it, you can return it very quickly for free. This is something that, again, it's a similar idea, but it's a lot more difficult to do in furniture. So that's what we also invested in. That's why we invested in the CastleGate system. That's why we also invested in building up a professional customer service team just for that reason. And I think this is also from the overall sales that we achieved over the past few years, also the ramp up that you've seen, as well as, most importantly, this picture here. Sorry, 1 second. This picture here. What we see here is that Wayfair overall has roughly about 80% repeat customer rate. 80% repeat customer. And this is something I think a lot of other platforms are kind of struggling to achieve. And the reason behind that is what I just mentioned, right? So because we place a lot of emphasis into customer experience. And for that reason, we're also expecting our suppliers or seller to be focusing on the same thing. And I think that's kind of to the point that Mr. Zhang mentioned earlier about the different stages of e-commerce development. You started with simply being a seller, but you eventually go into more of a 精品路线, right? So you focus on the categories that you can really excel in, and you make sure that you are able to be very successful and very competitive in those categories, and you are able to deliver a fantastic customer experience for the products that you offer on site. And this is the type of sellers or the type of products or shopping experience that we're looking for in our supplier base, and that's something that we're placing a lot of emphasis on when we speak to our partners. So for that, I think that's kind of the general overview of Wayfair. And for the second part, I want to go into a bit more specifics about the opportunities that we offer. Sorry, it's jumping around. Uh-oh, back. There we go. Okay, starting with the market. Feel free to take a picture of that. Wayfair currently is in both North America and Europe, and specifically, we are about 80% of our sales is coming from the United States, and then the rest is coming from international. And by international, I mean Canada, and in Europe, we have UK, we have Germany, we have Ireland, and Austria. Like these are our sites. And the reason that we picked up these countries is obviously we're following the customers, we're following the money, right? So if you look at the addressable market, it's about 470 billion, roughly, in both North America and EU. And I think that a lot of the customers that we're targeting, the core customer groups that we're targeting, which I'm going to talk a bit about, is really in these markets. And I think that we have a natural advantage based on the kind of proprietary kind of brand and network and the shopping experience that we built up over the years. And for the product categories that we offer, so it's basically everything home, right? That everything that you see, that's in a kind of a home living space, from large, bulky items of furniture to smaller, like decor items, to what I just mentioned, home appliances. All of these are available on Wayfair, and these are something that we are actively selling to our customers. And to go into a bit more specifics, first of all, we have the furniture and decor space. What we have here, I think it's some of the examples of the items that we sell, such as sofa, bed, side tables, cabinets, kitchen and dining chairs, outdoor furniture as well. I think all of these have really good foot traffic on our site throughout the year, and this is kind of really the core categories that we've built up over the years. Aside from that, we also have a lot of home furnishing related items, such as lighting, such as plumbing, outdoor structure, fireplace and grills. And I think a lot of these are, at least from what I've seen over the past couple of months, I think a lot of these items are actually available in Vietnam, and there's a huge supply chain for these items. And I'm very excited to see that a lot of, for example, a lot of the plumbing vanity type of products here actually have a lot of competitive pricing-wise, have a lot of competitive advantage compared to the rest of the world. And I think there's an increasing number of sellers on site that are coming from Vietnam, and they're in those type of categories. And then we also have the other kind of miscellaneous items at home, like pets, tabletop, recreation, storage and orgs, and a lot of the home appliances as well, so things I just mentioned. So feel free to take a picture of that. And I think one thing that I really want to emphasize here is that so whenever we are kind of advising our sellers or our partners on what to sell, we're always telling them that make sure that you are focusing on the ones that you can really excel in, making sure that you can get consistent supply for those products, and that you are able to price them competitively, and make sure that you are able to develop a good customer experience for that. Because at the end of the day, on Wayfair, it's not really a site where you go up there and then just try out very many different things, and then just hope for one of them that will kind of succeed. And I think there are research that probably you need to do, but by kind of looking at the different categories that we sell, and making sure that the ones that you provided kind of fit into the lifestyle brands that we have within Wayfair. We actually have very different sub-brands under Wayfair that cater to different lifestyle, such as industrial, such as modern, or countryside, European style, things like that, right? Making sure that you can fit your product into one of those lifestyle brands. And then finally, I want to talk a bit about the customers that we have. And I think this is an interesting topic because I think we have a group of customers that's probably bigger in in North America and Europe, but smaller in the rest of the world. So the core customer group that we have is basically, I think on Wayfair, obviously you have people who are shopping for necessities, right? So you have people who are looking just for a piece of furniture, like a chair, because they need a chair. But at the same time, a lot of the customers that we get are actually customers who are not just looking for necessities, but they're looking to upgrade the living space that they have. So in a sense, it's discretionary purchases, and it's purchases that they want to make a statement. It's a declaration of who they are. It's a statement about their lifestyle choices. It's a statement about who they are, who they want to be, and how they want to be perceived and seen by friends and family around them, right? So a lot of these shopping experiences that we have on Wayfair are like that, meaning that there are kind of two core customer groups that we have. One is the younger, relatively younger group is the ones that are kind of about 20 to 30-year-old who are probably moving to a new city, probably upgrading their home, they're starting a new family. It's the first time in their life that they have some money to invest in building a home that's kind of they're always imagined it to be, right? So it's not just buying a piece of furniture for the sake of buying a piece of furniture, right? So that's the first group. And the second group is that a kind of relatively older generation, probably 40 to 50-year-old, who are more mature. They have a lot more discretionary spending power, and they're able to spend more on higher price point items, and they look more on value, on brands, on design, on good quality products. And these are, for this customer group, we also have a sub-brand. We call them premium brand that kind of caters to that customer group. So what's common in between the two groups is that, obviously, I think translating to our seller or supplier community is that you get higher margin from selling to these customers, right? So there's a higher markup, and there's a higher willingness to pay from this customer group. And that's also the feedback that we consistently heard from a lot of our, at least Chinese sellers. They're saying that comparing Wayfair to a lot of the other platforms, I think what they sacrifice is selection breadth, but what they gain is actually margin. And because of that margin, they're able to sustainably investing into that categories that they really sell on, and making sure that they continue to refine that competitive edge. And it really helps with the transition from a more kind of intro level kind of selling model to a brand building model. So Wayfair is kind of in the intermediate stage between that transition. So that's the market, the product, and our customer groups. And finally, before and here, I think there's one more page about the marketing that we invest in. I think the point here is just to mention I think the point that we want to make here is that we invest a lot into marketing through the different channels that we have. And I think one thing that Wayfair is really proud of is that we pride themselves as someone who really understands the end customers, because we're an American company. We are very aware of what the customers are looking for and how they behave, how they think, how they make purchasing decisions, and all of our marketing campaigns and efforts are directed towards that. So with all of that, I think the last thing that I want to mention here is, very importantly, our business model, basically how we partner up with our sellers and suppliers. To put simply, we are a drop shipping model. And by that, the understanding, the overall understanding is that it's kind of like a retailer and supplier relationship, right? So the sellers, in our case, is kind of like a supplier. And in that case, what you can do, what we want you to do, is to focus on what you do best, which is producing or sourcing the products, selecting the products, and then kind of forward positioning them to our end market in US, in Canada, in Europe, and we'll do the rest. We'll do the rest of the selling. We'll do the rest of the customer experience, or customer service. And in terms of how it actually happens within a workflow, it's very simple. I think making sure that, as I just mentioned, the products that you have selected, the products that you sourced, you need to make them available in the overseas warehouse, either your own warehouse or leveraging one of the 3PL logistics, or using Wayfair's own kind of CG CastleGate network of warehouse. This way, we can make sure that when the customer places the order, you are able to ship them out very quickly, and that package gets to the customer within the time frame that we want, right? So this is one critical way of us ensuring that we have a complete end-to-end kind of customer delivery experience. If you have more questions on that, obviously I'll be sticking around after the event, and we're welcome to talk more about that. And I think, and the rest of the pages are more around the technicalities of what, how to become a Wayfair supplier or seller. The requirements are mostly around product and compliance, product compliance and account side. So there will be obviously background checks that we want to conduct, and also most importantly, we want to make sure that the products that you're offering on Wayfair meet certain meet the requirement to be selling in those destination market. So meaning that if you're selling to the UK, for example, on upholstery product, we want to make sure that you have the fire regulation, fireproof certificate. That's required for that market. So these type of things that we'll check during the onboarding. And then for the actual onboarding experience, sorry, I think there's. And for the actual onboarding experience, it's pretty simple. Aside from what I just mentioned, as long as you, I think for our Vietnamese seller community, we want to make sure that we are offering the best support possible. So at the moment, we are going to be providing one-on-one consultation when you apply to Wayfair, making sure that we can kind of, if needed, we'll kind of handhold you through the process, making sure that you understand what to do, what's needed, and how to kind of accelerate your growth on site. And including if you need advice on product selection, for example, these are also available during the onboarding process. And once you become a Wayfair supplier, we will also have a program that's dedicated to helping our Vietnamese seller community to make sure that you're able to quickly scale within the first 3 to 6 months on Wayfair, and you understand, again, what you need to do to be successful on Wayfair, because it's not always the same coming from between platforms. And then if you proven yourself within 3 to 6 months that you are able to sell very quickly on Wayfair, there's also opportunity for you to get a one-on-one dedicated relationship manager who will further help you with product selection, decisions. They will give you more advice on or insights on certain categories. They will help you become more comfortable with navigating the Wayfair ecosystem, and making sure that you also have the opportunity to participate in certain premium programs that offer premium brands, for example, that target premium customer, and then you get more exposure during some of the larger promotional events. So these are all available specifically for our Vietnamese community. And this is also, feel free to take a picture of this. It's our kind of Wayfair code of conduct, something that you need to be aware of if you're interested in Wayfair and want to become a seller. And lastly, here's some contact information at the end of the slide and a QR code. For application, if you're interested in working with us, and we're very excited, and we're very looking forward to have the opportunity to be working with our Vietnamese seller community. And I think, as I mentioned before, I think this is a perfect time for us to be looking into e-commerce, cross-border e-commerce. And I think from Wayfair, at the moment, we are very aggressively building up our presence in Southeast Asia, and we want to make sure that we're able to tap into our large and mature supply chain in Vietnam. And if you have further questions, feel free to contact this email address, and I'll be available as well in the event. So thank you very much today for the opportunity, and looking forward to your questions, and looking forward to working together. Thank you.